This is the Courier 13 podcast with Winter Andrews, a weekly think tank of in-depth conversations among rising filmmakers. My goal with this show is to showcase the innovative talent and ideas that Hollywood hasn't discovered yet. All right, we are going.
Timmy,
Jimmy,
how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Well, it's interesting. I'm feeling good because I'm here with you, and this is great. But it's a weird day that we're waking up to.
Oh yeah.
It's very weird right now, and I feel like it'd be weird if we didn't acknowledge how weird it was right now.
Just to preface everything, I am just filled up to the brim with nervous energy right now. I'm ready to go, man. Shaking in this seat, ready to run around the yard screaming for Biden. It's gonna be a good day, hopefully.
Yeah. I was feeling good vibes yesterday, and it still feels like the vibes are still good. The vibes can still get us there. I was watching everything last night. I know you were too. We were just talking about it, and I didn't even see the whole Trump acceptance speech. I didn't even know that was a thing until you told me. That was interesting, but
yeah, he prematurely declared victory in a few states. I know Georgia for sure, but I didn't see it live. I woke up to a text from my mom that said that it happened because she stayed up the whole night watching it, And,
sure.
So I came down in the morning, she took me back and rewinded there, and I watched it, and it's kind of creepy, man. It's just weird to after 4 years of this stuff, we still are in an election that's more or less a toss-up. It's just weird.
Yeah, why? This is a big question, but it got me wondering this too. Why do you think that is? Why do you think this is still such a toss-up? I know this isn't a politics show, but
right. No, that's a very complicated question, but I guess the way I see it, I think there are two very polarized bases, and the media that represents those bases really only caters to that voter group. And I don't see, and I don't even know if it would be worth trying, but I don't see much from either campaign trying to get people to jump ship. It's more appealing to their own base and independence.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why we don't see much of a crazy harsh turn from 16 to now. But I don't know, dude. It's a tough question to answer because I feel like anybody with a brain should be able to wake up in the morning, use their little iPhone and figure out what's right from wrong. It's
yeah. I think you're right about that. In the fact that the media, I think they love the fact that people are in their factions because it's easier to program to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also when you really think about it, and I'll say this about the Trump campaign, and I'll say this about the Biden campaign. There really wasn't a lot of substantive discussion on policy with either campaigns. It was really just Trump was he's Sleepy Joe. Everything's fine. The coronavirus isn't a thing. Right. You don't have to worry about it. And with Biden, it was he's awful. He, worst president in history, can't do anything right.
Right.
Which, of course, if you feel that way, that does resonate. But then it's I just wish people talked more about, because you saw it in the second debate, people like Biden and Trump trying to share their policies a little bit, but
yeah, once we had to mediate them like 2-year-olds.
Right. Well, yeah. Once you finally got them in a room and now you have to talk about this. Right. We actually heard it, but yeah, I think
I agree with you. It's a lot easier to sell somebody an ideal than it is to sell them a fact, And
that's what people want, though. They're right. I want to know how you're going to affect my life, actually, not just how you feel about the other person. And I think both candidates, you could say, didn't live up to that. In my opinion, actually, like being like, yo, actually, this is how I'm gonna like make your life better.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
it's interesting because obviously, like, I feel like Biden will improve the livelihood of most, if not all, Americans, minus just like the top 1%, pretty much. If you look at his tax plans, he's
I
on
agree
his
with that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So like,
I just
yeah,
wish
but
you talk about it.
right, right. No, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree with that for sure. But at the same time, I feel like you don't, and I don't know if this is just something like independent to like American politics, but I feel like you just don't rile up the masses by being calm, level-headed, and telling people what you're going to do. It's selling ideals, and um, and it's scary because when polarization reaches this point, and when I feel like the way you carry yourself societally, or not me, for example, but like some people, like the way that they carry themselves societally doesn't always line up with the way that they think because of the culture we've created. And that's how you get such a large silent majority. And that's why I think this election is so much closer than what we would have thought, you know? And I don't know how to really solve that because media is media and echo chambers are echo chambers, and it's it has to come from within to seek out these changes in thinking in the midst of like big data, when like articles, all of these things are catered to you and you see what you want to see, you know. So
Well, yeah, it was like it was with. Did you see the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma?
yeah.
Well, yeah, and they were just, and they basically like admitted, like the guy, I don't know if it was the guy from Google or Twitter or something. They basically admitted, like when you search something, um, you are basically guaranteed to get either a sort of different result or a very different result depending on where you live,
Mhm.
your background, what what they conceive of your political beliefs. And that was an aha moment for me where I was just like, oh, I can now see why people can live in totally different fantasy worlds.
Mhm.
Like people can I like someone who's liberal can see the world as entirely different as someone who leans conservatively sees it, because they literally are given an image of the world that is not the same. And
Right.
so where do you work from there? Because like say someone who's conservative, they may feel like, oh man, I'm getting all these articles and just like how corrupt the media is and how corrupt the system is, and some of it may be true, some of it may not be true, but that's
Mhm.
all they're getting. And then if you're a liberal person, all you're hearing probably is that Trump is planning on using Russian bots to take over America,
Right.
and then you can't align yourself because you both see two existential threats
Mhm.
that you've been spoon fed because because YouTube wants you to keep scrolling through their algorithm. Google wants you to keep looking through their search feeds.
Right.
The social media platforms keep
It's
wanting
like
you to
just a
look at it.
regurgitation of your like preconceived notion, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, Tim, because like you would think with a beast like social media, and especially like just what globalization like has become. It's so fascinating that a tool like social media has done the opposite of what I thought it would. Like you think it would introduce us to all of these new ideas, these new people, and create like a sense of understanding and peaceful discourse, but it's done the opposite. It's created echo chambers and it's cemented us in our ideas of ourselves, and it's weird.
Right. We've regressed
Yeah,
as much as we've expanded our like intellectual horizon.
right. Like the tools are there. It's just like, what are we going to do with them?
Yeah. And then but what happens then if the tools are faulty? Because that's kind of what we're seeing. Not
That's a
only
good point. Because now
right,
like private companies like Twitter are trying to like play a role in what you see and what you don't see. And that's just such a tough conversation because it's like you want to get rid of the Russian bots, but you don't want to censor individuals who might have a voice. So it's like,
Right.
I don't know. And even though it's well intended, I don't disagree with what they're trying to take down. It's just the slippery slope of censorship.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. I don't like the idea because that's the thing, as you said, like it all has good intentions. I don't want something that's going to mislead people so drastically to exist. But if you take that stand in that moment, then in any other moment, if a person doesn't like something,
Mhm.
even if it's reasonable that that thing is on there, but it doesn't align with their beliefs, they can just be like, well, I think this is a load of horse crap. I don't want this.
And to
And
me,
then
it's like, do we really want our private corporations making that decision for us?
no,
Is
not in
that
my opinion.
right? Because even though right now we might agree with it, who knows what Twitter is going to censor 2 years from now when they might need something to happen politically, to further their special. Like, there's all these things that are just you gotta maintain a strong, free media and people who are interested in that strong free media. And apathy, I think, is a result of people not believing their sources.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, right. And as you said, we can't suspect that Twitter and these companies don't have special interests and that the people who run these companies don't have their own biases and leanings because
Mhm.
they're also people. So, especially people of high influence in tech and in politics, because
Mhm.
politicians definitely care how these platforms run and what they're running.
Right.
So I think that's why the slippery slope thing is such a big deal because I think people see it as harmless at first, but it may not be.
Yeah, it may not be.
It may
And
not be.
and we just don't know yet, and that's the thing, because it's like and you're the same way. We don't disagree with what they're censoring at the moment. It's just the act of censorship as a whole
Right.
is scary. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is not a political show, and I do wanna get out of it, but I feel like it is important that everyone at home, I know that this is a weird moment for everyone. And I think the best thing, the thing that I hope for most, even like more so than like like Biden winning or Trump winning, is just like people should act responsible during all this and not like attack people and hurt people throughout all this. And
Yeah,
I think people should just be like, okay, we're gonna wait until it's decided.
right, right.
Yeah,
And that's a really good point. Just keeping a level head, seeing what the results actually are before we react too harshly.
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, I've wanted to get you on the show since the inception of this show. Um, man, well, I mean, I think it'd be really fun if we let the people know how we met, because I
Yeah.
think that's a cinematic story onto itself.
Oh, a total bromance.
It's a total bromance, honestly. Well, first, I'm going to allow you to just introduce yourself. Obviously, I think people who are watching this already know that you're a fantastic co-director and writer. But I mean, do you want to give a little blurb about yourself before we go
Yeah,
on?
I'm Jimmy Roberts, as you might know by the title, and I'm a senior at DePaul studying film with a concentration in screenwriting. Um, just doing a lot of writing at the moment. I co-directed The Climb with this guy over here. It's pretty fun. It's a good time. Um, trying to be a writer, director, and freelance editor in this crazy post like COVID landscape. Going to be graduating hopefully in the spring or sometime over the summer or next fall, depending on credits and all that. But yeah, I'm just excited for the future, excited for The Climb finishing, project that Tim and I have been working on for a while now, and
Yes, it's
excited for
getting
new
to a
stuff.
year now,
Yeah,
and we're finally getting to that like end stretch, and it's pretty incredible.
yeah. Doing everything over Zoom, man. Like, it has just been taxing.
Whew.
But we did it, and I'm proud of us. We got there.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to talk about that because I think that that's just a great lesson for people, like getting over hurdles in the process, because we had to get through a lot of hurdles, which I want to discuss in depth. But I want to tell the people about our bromance. I think they deserve to know.
Dude, it's so
Um,
funny too, because I was so close to not coming on that trip. Like,
oh, really?
yeah, because my
Oh, no, yeah,
roommate,
you did say that. No, now I remember.
because I was gonna go with my roommate, and he ended up getting denied. So I was like, I don't know anybody. I'm probably not gonna do this. And it was kind of like a last second decision to just be like, this is study abroad, once in a lifetime, gotta do it. And we met.
Yeah, well, yeah, just to clarify, me and Jimmy were both on we were sophomores. Well, I was a sophomore. Yeah, we were both sophomores.
Yep.
And we wanted to study abroad trip to Italy, to Rome, where we learned about the Italian cinema movement, the neo-realistic movement of, say, like the 1950s and 60s that was going on, as well as like contemporary Italian cinema. So we were like immersed in all this Italian cinema, and we learned so much during that. And we literally, I remember you were the first person I met at the orientation meeting before we went. We
Yeah.
sat next to each other.
That was crazy because that was like every study abroad.
Every study abroad that was going that summer, we all met in this one room, and then I sat down, and then you were like on my left or something. I looked at you, and I was like, I just want to make small talk because we were all just waiting around. I was just like, oh, what's up with you? And then I asked you like, what trip are you going on? You're like, oh, I'm going on the Rome. And I'm like, bro, me too. Isn't this crazy? Yeah.
The universe hurled us at each other.
The universe kind of hurled us at each other. And yeah, I mean that's so crazy that you almost didn't go, because that trip, obviously, I mean, I think it was huge for both of us. And that was a trip where I mean, that was a trip that really began it all. I mean, we talked about, I remember you were thinking about the climb.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were thinking about it, I don't think it was the climb. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was known as that. We didn't have like the title or anything. But you had this idea for at first it was like a vignette, right? For like a short story. You were gonna write like a vignette about this man who becomes infected with this crazy deer disease that erodes their brain.
Right.
And I was like, you know what, dude? That sounds like a pretty cool short film.
Yeah. I remember the night that happened because we were Tim and I shared a bed in Rome, or not a bed, Jesus, a room in Rome with two beds.
Well, I mean, I mean,
might have pushed it together.
we might have pushed it together a few times.
No, but I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and he had some wilderness like scientist on talking about CWD, which is a chronic wasting disease in northern Michigan. And it's the same family of disease as like mad cow disease and stuff like that. It basically like eats away at your neural pathways and like turns you into like a zombie deer pretty much. And
this is a real thing. This is
that's
a real disease. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I was planning on doing like the short story vignette kind of thing, I wanted it to be about the relationship between the guy and the deer, and the guy who contracted this disease from the deer but was a few days like away from the deer's like spot in the disease, pretty much like he was further along in the ride. And it was just kind of like watching your own self decay and seeing parts of himself in this deer and stuff like that. And it was interesting to see how the story turned into something that was completely different, like centered around grief and guilt and longing to like fix mistakes in your past that you can't. And no, I really appreciated how organically the story came together through rewrites and through like talking to you. And I think it was just such an awesome process.
Yeah, the writing, well, the writing process and the just like the brainstorming process that happened once we got back from Rome was very seamless.
Hmm.
in my opinion. I mean, we basically, because I remember I came back and then we decided we were going to co-direct it. And we were talking about like, just, okay, how are we going to put this together? Like, how is the story going to come together? And we're like, well, we got to like center it around something like this big thing,
Hmm.
something that transcends the man. And I think for us, it was guilt,
Yeah.
as you said, and we both kind of like had our reasonings for going in that direction based on just like what was going on with our lives at the time and just like stuff like that. But it really worked because then you introduced the character of the boy, because then it became like this. And I don't want to spoil the film. That we're gonna try to be as big as possible, but like is it's really it's the cornerstone of the piece is the relationship that this man had with this boy,
Hmm.
and the guilt that he feels, especially once his mind begins to erode, the guilt can't be suppressed anymore, and he has to face it.
Right.
Um, and that meant a lot to me to explore that.
And what's so funny about filmmaking sometimes is like practicality can push you in an authentic direction, I feel like. Because one of the biggest reasons why we kind of turned away from the deer and looked more towards the boy, I think, is just because how the hell are we going to film a deer in a student short film, you know? And I think
Exactly.
just getting us to problem solve, because that's all storytelling and filmmaking is to me. It's like you get your skeleton, you fill it in with your interesting meat, and then you problem solve. And it was really an awesome experience to be able to do that with you, especially for our first short.
Yeah. No, and that's an amazing lesson that you just pointed out. Like practicality leads to authenticity, because you're so right. Especially, and I can remember so many times in the pre-production process, in the production process, and in the post process, especially once we started editing, practicality really
Oh yeah.
made things authentic. Like just going like just being like, okay, what is the point of this? Like, what is the point of this story? What are we trying to say? Let's not, sugarcoat this at all. Let's not try to add anything we don't need to add. And that created the most authentic thing.
Mhm. For sure.
And
We even like cut parts that we thought
we
were
we
gonna be
rewrote the story,
right. Yeah.
and that was the way to go. But to go off of what you even further with the whole practicality creates authenticity, I think, and this happens in production, in all the processes, in pre-production, production, and post, leaning when you have an obstacle,
Mm.
leaning into that obstacle instead of running away from the obstacle will lead you to the results. I feel like, especially once we got onto production, because so many things changed once we got on set, like locations, wardrobe, location especially, and just like the amount of shots we were going to use. That
Mm.
stuff changed like all the time on a continual basis. But that taught me so much, and I feel it would be the same way for you. That taught me like the worst thing you can do is resist a necessary change that has to happen on set.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Once
for
you
sure.
resist it, yeah, once you start like resisting that, then you're just fucking everything up.
Right. And we even know as writers, like what is it, like killing our darlings or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like when you're directing, like it's like that, but exponential. You know, you have to be so willing and able to just like lose a piece of yourself if it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And like for us, we put so much work into just the pre-pro of the climb,
Yeah.
and getting to set, like right away, our trailer got stuck. That was carrying all our equipment, and it set us back a few hours. And from that, changes had to be made. Places we thought we were going to film, the terrain was too icy. We had to switch somewhere else. So it's like don't ever think that it's cemented, because
No.
in this like industry, things are always changing. Stories are organic, you know, and you have to be like able to shift with those tides.
And yeah, and also yeah, fuck, just you gave me PTSD with the whole trailer thing. Yeah, no,
Oh
I was
man.
stuck in the snow and we all had to like push it out, and then that cut down our time on the first day. But I think seeing the cut that we have now,
Mhm.
I appreciate all those obstacles because I think it forced us to go in different directions that ultimately made the film more concise and
Mhm.
better. So I think the lesson really resonates now having done it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't see it when, especially when it's your first time, you're not going to see it at first. You're going to think all these changes suck. This isn't what I wanted. Now that it's changing, it's going to be bad. Like it's guaranteed to suck now.
Mhm.
But then, because then at that point, there's nothing else you can do. So now you have these things and you did the best that you could on the day, on set.
Mhm.
And now you have all these components and now you have to put them together in the best way. And I think people will be very surprised once you take that leap of faith and you no longer offer resistance.
Mhm.
You can make something that maybe it's not exactly as you thought it was going to be before,
Mhm.
but it'll be great. And it's just like what showrunners do too. Like showrunners, because like how fast paced television is and like how the budgets are comprised, like you have a certain budget for the entire season and you can't go over budget. And as a showrunner, you're in charge of making sure that the show doesn't go over budget. You a lot of times your producers are going to be like, we can't do the scene exactly how you want to do it. Like we're going to have a different location. We're going to have to take this effect out. This stunt
Mhm.
is not going to work. And you as a showrunner, you have to develop that intuition. And for a director, I think it's the same thing when stuff changes on a set. You have to have that intuition. Okay, what can I never give up and what can be allotted to change?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why
Because
it's so, oh, I'm sorry.
no. Well, I was just gonna say because there are definitely certain things that you should never, like the essence of your story. You should not give up on that.
Right.
But the little minute nuances, those can fluctuate, and it can. I think you can allow those to change, and
And
you
that's
should.
just why pre-pro and knowing your story is just so essential. Because like with the stuff that like we were flexible about, I don't think we could have been unless we knew exactly like what we were trying to say. Because
Yes.
because I don't know, like if you know whose scene it is, and if you know like the thematic message behind it, or like the through line, how it contributes to like the overall piece, you can kind of put it anywhere if these components are functioning and if you're reaching this result. You know, you just got to like know your formula more or less of your scene, and then you can kind of like build atop it as you see fit based on your own intuition and being flexible to like changes on set and stuff like that. Because really, like, I think near 50% of the work we ended up doing on set we didn't think we'd be doing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
because we knew what we were trying to say and that was in the back of both of our heads, we could give our energy and effort to making things work and like getting things in the proper place while still staying true to our message.
I think that's a very important thing to remember, especially new filmmakers, because a lot of people, I think, for whatever reason, don't put in that extra like thought process and effort beforehand, and they think, well, I'm gonna wing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go there and shit goes down, we'll figure it out. But if you don't know your story backwards and forwards, if you don't know the essence of the scene, like what the characters want, what the motivations are, why things are happening, then there is no room to improvise because you're already lost on what the like what the blueprint, sorry, excuse me, what the blueprint of the scene is. And it's just like you said, you have to know that. Otherwise, improvisation, any improv or any things that you change is going to feel weird in the editing room because you weren't adapting it to what the scene is.
Right. You should never be like improving out of your butt. You should be improving based on like this mold, this thing that you know will carry through, you know, and that's yeah, it's a really good point. And I think it even like carries over to the editing room because we took and I guess another piece of advice, please take a break between set and when you edit your stuff, if you are editing your own work, because Tim and I, like we actually weren't supposed to edit this, but we got the opportunity to after some things happened, and because of the time it took for all of that to occur, we ended up starting to edit the footage a few months after we wrapped.
Yeah.
And looking at that and being able to like mend it in the best possible way as we saw fit, while still like knowing what we were trying to say from the beginning, I think was so cool. And just to see how the script was refined and then how like the cut itself was refined to then match that original message of intent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was just so cool to see all that come together.
No, getting to edit it with you was like one of the most creatively fulfilling experiences of my life. Like that was, I came up to your house in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
in Fenville, and we were like, okay, we now get to edit this. We now get to do it the way we want. Fantastic. Let's go at it. And of course, we were very scared because we had seen cuts done of it beforehand and we were not satisfied. And at first we thought, crap, we're not going to be able to make this good because what we've gotten, like what we got from production,
Mm-hmm.
just isn't going to work. But then once we like, and again, it's because we knew our story so well.
Right.
We knew how to change it. We knew how to adapt it because we never forgot what the story was about. We never forgot what was important.
Right.
Was guilt and the relationship between the man and the boy.
And I think it being like a silent film, it was really important for us to do that because kind of looking back, there's not many indicators in the cut itself of like, oh, this is that beat, this is that beat, this is that beat. And like for an editor who was detached from that pre-process and didn't really know every single thing about the story and the characters, I don't see how it could have worked. So I'm happy that we were able to get that opportunity and stitch it together how we saw it.
Yeah, it really changed things because once we realized, oh man, we can change this story and make it great and like make it the way and make us feel satisfied about it. I think that really just changed my perception of just how powerful the editing process is.
Oh my
You
gosh.
literally get to remake things in your in the image that you want in
Mm-hmm.
the editing room, as long as you again are fully aware of what your story is. And of course, that's the job of the director, is always
Yeah.
aware of what it is.
And I guess something we didn't even really think about, I don't think we used the script like one time when we were editing. And maybe to like,
We maybe we used it. I think you're right in the fact that when we were actually like looking through footage and like splicing stuff together, we weren't like looking at the script like where is this going to happen. We were just kind of like, and I think big part of that is because we knew the story so well and we knew the footage so well, we could do that because we had looked at it so many times. And I think that's when you're the director, I think you can do that because you've been so invested.
mm-hmm.
And I think honestly, it felt so much better that we could just get out of the script and just see, okay, visually what works.
Right.
We were no longer looking at it from a, I guess, a literary perspective. We were completely looking at it from how the visuals were impacting us and how we felt about the visuals.
Right. And especially how it impacted like the whole. And that's why I think it's so important to not just like directly edit to the script, but to edit to like, what is this thing? You know, like
Right.
what is this? Because it's different than it doesn't exist on a page, you know? And if you're just editing, like looking line to line, trying to like, it comes out cookie cutter.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, I was just so happy that we were able to have structure from all the work we put in pre-pro, but then we were also able to be so freeform with um, the stuff we had at our disposal, and then also just like talking to you and just I don't know, like it's basically reiterating the same thing. Like the knowledge that we had of our story allowed us to be so flexible with how we told it.
Yes. And I don't think, I think I would just say with caution to someone who's listening to this, definitely don't, when you're editing, don't not look at your script. Don't not consult your script. But I will say, I think you bring up a good point, Jimmy, is that like when you know it so well, and then you're looking at what the best visuals you have are, and you can be more free flowing with it, the more
Mhm.
I think it becomes better and it's
Right.
less cooker cutty. And shit, what else was I gonna say? It was like the script. Yes, I don't, I think especially if we had more dialogue. Is that my phone ringing? I'm sorry. Disregard that. My phone is ringing from like the other side of my room right now. Um,
Dance party. No, but, oh
okay,
God, what was the,
no,
yeah,
no,
sorry.
but here's what it is. I think, and it's just kind of a minor note, but I think especially because of the piece that we had, a more silent film. Like if we had more dialogue, we probably would have to look at the script more.
Oh, dude, form drives process 100%.
Form, yes,
And
form definitely drives process in our case.
right. And like we knew we could be so spontaneous and like creative with it because there wasn't a really rigid script, you know. There wasn't, because I think dialogue really like does contribute to how structured something is. And
Mm-hmm.
especially with a medium like short films, you know, and just like the more dialogue you have, the more I don't know, the more like this is going to happen then, and this is going to happen then, and this is going to happen then. And I found we were able to really put stuff in different places where we found it worked best because, you know, there wasn't dialogue that pinned us to a certain moment of time.
Right. Because really, if we wanted to, we could have put like, I don't know how this would have affected the story, but say like, you know, like there are scenes in the middle of the story where like the man just kind of like wandering around in his house and stuff. We could have put that in the beginning,
Yeah.
theoretically. Like we could have, because again, there is no like words to tie us to any moment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all happening from the perspective of the man in his own consciousness. We could have even made this even more trippy if we
Yeah.
wanted to, if we felt the story needed it, because we were so free
Mm-hmm.
to
And when you, sorry, what were we
no,
saying?
no.
Just, like when you make the like I don't know, like when you make what you're trying to say centered around action and a character's thoughts and feelings and interpretation and not so much on what people are saying. I think in short films for sure you just get so much more leeway in how you put it together. And I think with the short film and with like the first time we directed, it was such a blessing to like have minimal dialogue because I don't know. That's kind of like that's part of my style though too. Like I really am into show not tell, and especially with the short film format. And yeah.
Well, I think it's really hard to make a concise moment or a concise short film with a lot of dialogue
Mhm.
because you don't have the time to go in depth with like scenes where like characters go at each other or where characters like have those iconic conversations. You
Right.
just don't don't have time to do that. And right, I mean it's a visual medium, and if especially in anything, no one wants to be. I mean, the worst. I mean, it isn't like the worst mistake that a writer can do is for like to have the character just tell the audience, "This is how I feel. This is what's going on in my head.
Mhm.
This is what's happening." And with the Flying, that was never the case. You never know what this guy is thinking, and
Right.
that's what makes it so compelling to watch. You're watching this dude just kind of meander through this film, and you're like, man, this guy's got to be so fucked up, but you don't know how fucked up he is. You never are shown that. He never tells you that,
Mhm.
which is, yeah, especially in a short format,
And
because
I
I mean,
think, sorry.
no, if there was a moment where the guy like had voiceover ever, the
Yeah.
film would just immediately suck. Like it would just, you know what I mean? It would completely go into this cliche like, oh, now you've revealed to me how you feel. But I mean, also it degrades the audience because the audience is like, well, I can guess how he feels. I don't need you to tell me how he feels.
But it's funny. I was actually going to bring that up. I was going to be like, but at the same time, how many studio-driven features, TV shows do you see where right at the beginning your protagonist has a little montage going through status quo life with a voiceover? That's very, very frequent.
Oh, it's very, very frequent. And most, here's the thing with voiceover and certain conventions, I mean, there are films that I love and TV
Mhm.
shows that I love that use voiceover because they know how to use it.
Right.
There is a way to use it. And it and the it's and using voiceover, it's not about explain how the person feels directly. It's not about giving context or expository information like exposition. It's about giving you the essence of the character through their thoughts.
Hmm.
It's about giving you the essence of what the story is through what the character is thinking. That the
Yeah.
character could be thinking about something that doesn't even relate to the situation that they're in right now, but how they say it, how they think reveals to you the kind of person that they are. And
Yeah.
that's compelling.
And to me, like for and yeah, to just piggyback off that, I think like getting that across to me, just it always comes like a little more enticing to do that in a intentional visual way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I think that that's really accurate to just give a little snippet into the headspace, and it doesn't even really have to be like directly related to the context of the scene. It's more like building this person, building this world, and that's why I just like surreal stuff so much, man. It's like if you can like see it, I
Yes.
think that's so much more impactful than like just somebody telling you about it. I don't know.
And
Yeah.
I think the best artists, the best TV show writers, film writers, directors, I think they know how to do both.
Hmm.
They know how to invoke the image so well and make something that's so interesting that it can tell you the story in one look. And they can also write dialogue and they can write scenes that are so visceral and can reveal to you things about the character without the character telling you. I mean, it's just, I mean, for me, what I'm thinking of right now is Euphoria, because
Hmm.
Euphoria uses voiceover a lot. I mean, yeah, voices don't use voiceover a lot, but the voiceover, while it definitely is used to move the plot forward, it's so fun at the
Mhm.
same time, and the visual imagery and the lighting and what these directors for this show and what the showrunner invoked with the images, again, is surreal because I mean it's about, taking drugs. So I mean just what
Mhm.
is they're able to do is so visceral on, on imagine on a visual level. So the combination, that's why when I feel like that's what the shows that I gravitate to is when you can. I feel like in that moment, the writer showed that he wasn't a one-trick pony. Like
Mhm.
he's like, I'll do the voiceover thing, but I'll do it great, and I'm gonna make sure that the visuals are, you could take that. It was like you could take the voiceover away, and you could still be like, this story is amazing. You didn't need the voiceover, even though it was such an important component
Mhm.
of it. And I feel like that's, I guess that would be like, if I could give like advice to myself and to other people, it's like, if you're going to use voiceover, cool, make the voiceover as good as you can make it. Make it about the essence of the character.
Right.
Make it not about explaining things, but also make your visual storytelling so amazing, so concise, so impactful that if for whatever reason you had to take the voiceover out, you'd be fine.
Right. Right. And I think as artists, we all have themes that are more maybe like visual, auditory. You might want to express it like through language. But I think as a filmmaker, it's really important to identify the themes that visually jump out at you.
Mhm.
Stuff like I see this thing maybe in nature, maybe in everyday society that means this to me. And if you don't have to like say it to yourself or read it in an article, but if you see it and it means that, then that's something that I think you like key in on.
Yeah, 100% agree. And obviously when I write, or if I'm like reevaluating the scene, because I'll be honest with you, I love great dialogue. I love great dialogue, but and I feel like it's just a general rule that I have myself: less is more. You
Mhm.
can have great dialogue, but I think it's so easy for dialogue to lose its edge if you overdo it.
Mhm.
And being concise with how you use language, at least for me, that's where I go to. For me, it's about how concisely can I express these characters through language, and then what are the visuals
Right.
that is going to make the audience um, attached to this moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the thing about all this stuff is it's so independent to what it's attached to the project at hand, you know? And 'cause I think like all of these dialogue to me is so like tonal. It's like I'll almost like separate film by like action heavy surreal stuff and then like dialogue heavy Sorkin-esque like fast, you know, like that. And I don't know. I think like with like the past 30 minutes of conversation aside, it is so important to just like look at what you're creating and try to figure out the best way to present that based on form, based on genre, based on your character. But I mean, like all these things. And it's hard to concretely say one is better than the other, one is more effective than the other, because it's so dependent on what you're trying to express.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
But
that's very
and
it's
that's where
very
style comes in.
what?
Yeah. I was just saying, and that's where style comes in. It's like whatever jumps out to you, don't question it. Don't
Yeah,
question it. Take
yes,
it and run.
and don't get into the headspace of, I like this director and this writer and how they write. I'm just gonna emulate that and ignore how my like gut intention, my gut instinct wants me to write.
Mhm.
Like because I mean, you see it happen. I feel it almost happened to me, but I feel like it happens with so many writers. They like idolize certain films and stuff to the point where they're like, man, if I can't write like that, I shouldn't even do it. But then
Yeah.
lose that opportunity to be like, okay, I like these artists, but how can I expand and do something different?
Mm.
Like how can I go into a direction that is not, how do I honor the people who inspire me, but also how do I take it up a notch?
Oh, dude, it's scary though,
Where's
because
that
like
line?
and the thing is with film, it's so like interesting too, because when you're going to like film school, you're not like studying to be an accountant. Like the people who you're trying to emulate are the posters on your wall, not like
Or,
mom and
yeah,
dad down. You know what I mean? So it's like there's this massive like disconnect, and there's not a staircase to where you want to be, like there are in so many other career fields. And when you're trying to make your first project and you're looking at all of these other things that have worked out for other artists, and you're trying to be confident in your own stories and your own like independent things you want to bring to the table, it's tough. And that's another reason why I was so grateful to co-direct for my first experience, because it's like it bolstered that confidence. If there's another person in the room with me who's like, yeah, this shit's cool, that's it's like
yeah,
it's all you need really to just jump off that diving board. And it's important to just keep swimming
yeah.
no matter like
It's
what
an
the
it's an
current is.
affirmation that you're not an idiot.
Yeah.
Like it's an affirmation that you're like, oh wait, you also see that this could possibly work and that this isn't like a terrible idea, and then because I mean I feel like that's the thing that stops people who want to write, people who want to direct. They think, well, I'm not at the level of a Aaron Sorkin or a uh, Francis Ford Coppola or a Martin Scorsese or a Jordan Peele or an Ava DuVernay or a Greta Gerwig. Like I'm not like at that level yet. I'm getting there. I have the potential. I feel like if I continue to hone in my craft and get these skills, and the more I watch and consume, I could get there.
Mhm.
But it's that like when it's your first time, you always kind of want to default to like you almost have to bullshit yourself. Like I remember when before we did the climb, I straight up looked at myself in the mirror and I just said, "You're a director. I know you've only thought of yourself as a writer, but you are also a director." Like it's almost like I had to like tell my ego that this is what it is now, and you just
Oh
have
my
to
gosh, yeah.
accept it.
Yeah, dude. And I guess two things to go off of that really quick, like hitting at the directors thing again. It's so easy to forget. All those names you just mentioned probably had flops too. You know, they had
Yeah,
something
no,
they
they
thought
did.
was right. And it's like that's the thing with art. There is no gold standard. And if you think something's cool, I mean that's the seed that will grow into any tree of what these films become, you know, and it's just believing in that and developing it and seeing where things go and not putting it in the drawer. It's really important. And then God, the other thing I totally forgot. What did you just say before that?
Yeah, I mean, I was basically saying like you can't.
Oh,
You have to convince
so
yourself.
the director thing. Yeah, yeah. I was the same way before, but we were both writers.
Uh,
And before the climb, I had no intention of ever directing anything ever. And it
I
was
find
like
that so hard to believe. I do
for
only because I mean, just obviously just the fact that we worked together. I feel like now it just seems funny that was our disposition.
oh yeah.
But I'm sorry.
No,
Continue.
well, yeah, well, I'd never taken a directing class. I had only known screenwriting, and like, and you know me, like I'm still a novelist first, so I was kind of like still thinking I'm going to write books and I'll write scripts and I'll do both of these things. But then when you were like, make it into a short, and I started to get more and more attached to this idea, once you like, I realized that fear was the only thing that was holding me back. It was that, oh, you know, I'm probably not as prepared as these other people. I probably wouldn't be able to take command of a set as well as these other people. And it's just like, just do it. You
Yeah.
got, like at the end of the day, man, it's like it's so easy to come up with all the reasons why you can't. And it's really hard to put your foot in the door and just say I can, but that's what you got to do.
Mhm.
And
And
yeah.
not to be afraid of failure. Like, because I mean, failure is the key to success. Every successful artist, filmmaker has failed, as we already mentioned.
Mhm.
You can't learn unless you fail. I mean, what do you expect? Do you expect just to know everything your first time and just get it right off the bat? No, that never happens. Film is such a complex, intricate process that for a human being, it's impossible to get it right the first time.
Mhm.
There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it that isn't obvious. Like that's why it's an art. You have to figure out your process. You have to figure that shit out,
Right.
for lack of a better way of saying it. Like you have to learn that steering into obstacles is better than resisting them. You have to learn that how to communicate with your crew heads. You have to, God damn it, phone, shut up. I'm on a roll here. You know what? Fuck, give me like a gosh darn second.
Are you good? Go mute that boy.
I'm gonna mute this guy. Shut up.
No, but I guess in the and to piggyback off that, huge shout out to the crew of the climb,
Oh,
because
yes.
like with that being our first experience, getting the chance to work with so many grad students, because I think more than half of that crew was grad,
Yes.
and having like that experience and that confidence in like change was really nice to just like when Tim and I would need something to happen, we had full confidence to say, okay, can you do this? And we would know that it would be done. And that was really nice. And it's so important to have a good relationship with your producer and your DP. I think those are like the two biggest things. If you can find a DP who sees the world the same way you do, and a producer who's nice and friendly and knows a bunch of people, you're right where you need to be.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I think yeah, no, the climb could not have happened if it was not for the crew that we had. It, you
Mm.
know, and obviously that sounds like a duh, no brainer, but I'm serious. Like the stuff that they had to adapt to, and yet still be professional and perform at the highest level that they could. I don't know how they did
Mm.
it. They maintained a stamina because, of course, the stamina that we have to go through as directors, it's like a mental stamina.
Yeah.
But for them, it's both. It's a physical, like we got to get this equipment out, we got to start moving, we got to get going, and it's a mental, like artistic stamina.
Right.
They
Right.
have to do both at the same time.
Yeah, and like I even think about like a 4-day shoot for the climb would have been tough to pull off in summer. And we were doing that
Oh yeah,
like
winter. Yes.
slippery ice and everything. And
Yeah, and it's cold. People are like, I want to go inside, but people didn't complain, which
yeah,
that I mean that's just showed their professionalism. No one was gonna be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Oh,
I guess a piece of advice to like all directors who are going to like do their first project, plan double for setup
plan,
time.
plan, plan, plan.
Like setup time is going to take way longer than you think it will, especially if you're filming in the snow. But just like all of the ins and outs of, is this the right filter? Is this the right lens? Is everybody in the right place? Is it like with the, if you have a gaffer working with your DP, that's a whole thing. And just planning for that as well as planning for your story. And just and a lot of that comes from a good relationship with your AD who kind of manages all of the logistics of your set and everything. So just I don't know. Really, at the end of the day, it's just like relationships, communication, and keeping everybody on the same page.
Do you? Well, what was I gonna say? I'm sorry. So many good nuggets of information are being exchanged right now. This is so much fun. Do you remember when we began before we got on set? We had a crazy long shot list. You got me thinking about this when we were talking about setup times, and it was such a big ass shot list. And
What was it like 100?
it was no, it was insane. And the fact that we were like, well, because we did. I mean, I can just say this from my perspective. I didn't know any better. I
Right.
didn't. I didn't know any better that we wouldn't have the setup time to do this stuff. And it was a rude awakening because then we were like, oh wow, you really only have time to do 8 of these shots
Right.
at best. You really can only do like 8 of them. So which shots do you need? What is absolutely necessary
Right.
to
Right.
have to have this moment, which is another great lesson um, for first time directors and beginning filmmakers is always ask yourself what you really need out of the scene.
Mm.
Always ask like what are the essentials, and then build up from there. So you always know like okay, if we don't have the time, I need this, this, and this. But if I have the time, I can also do this. I can
Right.
also we can also get the shot from this angle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
And
when you're on an independent set, you may or may not have the time.
very true. And honestly, it probably helped us out in the end because we had less shots with more drawn out moments. And
Yeah.
I think that encapsulated the tone of the woods, the tone of the story, just the empty feeling. And yeah, yeah, no, that's a great point. Like, make sure before you go to set that you talk to, if you have a location scout, your location scout, you talk to your DP, you talk to your crew heads, setup time, get that figured out because that's something that if I could go back and do over again, that's a part of pre-pro that we really like didn't even consider because at
Mm-hmm.
the time we didn't think it would be as big a deal as it was. And yeah, definitely like plan for that. So it's a time eater.
I mean, yeah, and you're as a, for first time directors and first time filmmakers, you're going to learn a lot your first round. It's gonna be a lot of things that you'll learn, and be ready to learn a lot. Be ready to fail.
Mm,
You know what I mean? But also know that sometimes what you think is failure will lead to good things.
very
Like
true.
I think as you said with the edit, like one, we had fewer shots, so editing was easier. We knew the moments that we needed to have. It wasn't that confusing. Two, as you said, like because this is such a like kind of a very like hollow piece. It's a very like somber and very like I would dare use the word meditative, but in a very surreal and creepy way.
Okay, so
It's a little. That's a little. I mean, I don't think I've ever used that in any of our discussions. But now looking at the cut, it kind of makes me. And I like thinking about it, like it kind of makes me feel that way.
yeah.
Because I mean, he doesn't talk the whole time. Most of it is silent and very
Mhm.
just like within his own brain space. So it is kind of meditative in that way. But
Yeah.
I think the shooting style of having these long drawn out takes, as you said, because we decided not to have so many shots, lend to the tonality of the piece.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And a lot of that, like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like you really like a lot of that you can't track all the time.
Yeah.
And it's an
Because you
organic.
don't know you don't know what's gonna like be your greatest salvation
Right.
by the end of it.
Right.
That's what's beautiful about it. You're just like, I had no idea this was gonna work out like this. But
And you
it
just gotta
did.
be open to it. And I think like being like hard-headed and stubborn is a good trait to get you there, but once you're there on set, it's like you gotta be open to your instincts and what
It's
you
the
see.
whole resistance thing. Stop resisting.
Right,
Stop resisting these changes.
right.
Yeah. I mean, resist the changes that will completely uproot your story
Mhm.
and diffuse the essence of it. But anything else, stop resisting.
Right. And that's the thing. If you know your story, then losing it won't be an issue in like the midst of
Exactly.
the shift. So yeah,
Yes.
it's very
I Yeah. Man, that's so many gosh darn golden nuggets in there. I hope you all are listening to this. Wow.
enjoying
Uh,
myself. This is fun, man.
this is so nice. Um, so well, how you doing, man? How's life? How's life treating you?
We're living in the same apartment building, so
It's that's I mean, it makes me upset because we live in the same apartment building and we haven't gone out to dinner as much as I'd like.
I know we need that's on me, Tim. I need to
I mean it's on both of us. It's yeah. I think with DePaul and our schedules and just everything that's been going on, it's just been and with COVID too.
Mhm.
I don't want to bring up anything, but did you have COVID? Like, because I know you
No,
were sick for a little bit.
I was
Great,
sick. Yeah, right.
great.
I feel much better now. It was like a 2 or 3 day like cold, but it was weird, bro. I was getting really bad morning sickness, and I've never had that before. So I was
I got
like,
really scared. I got really
yeah,
scared for a hot second. I was like, oh no.
and I was freaking out about it because some of my like close friends at another apartment who I didn't see within 2 weeks or anything, but they came down with it, and I know that COVID rates are spiking right now in Chicago, so I was just like, but
Well, they're shutting down restaurants now.
really, they're doing that again?
I that's what I heard from a friend of mine there. He was like, because we were talking about like, are we gonna do anything for Halloween? Like, what's going on?
Hmm.
And one of my friends was just like, well, they're closing down stuff, so we can't go out
Jeez.
and do stuff. So I mean, and I was, you know, it's yeah, I don't know.
And that's the big
I
thing
don't
with,
even want to think about news anymore. I'm just so done with it.
oh, dude, I feel you. I feel you. And that I feel like is part of kind of the problem right now too, where like we have this I don't know. I just feel like as a country we're worn out. And
I feel worn out. If no
right.
one else feels worn out, I just want to say right here, right now, I feel worn out.
But I just hope in the midst of that we can like buckle in and realize the threat we're facing, because really like cases are the worst they've ever been right now. And I know everybody's like done with it, but I mean like it's just important to stay mindful. And if you have relatives that are at risk and stuff like that, just COVID is still here. It is still among us. And no matter what the orange monster says, it is a thing. Like I still have, bro, I have people who I grew up with that I've known since I was 1 year old telling me that COVID isn't real.
Oh, wow. I mean, no.
And I
I,
was like, man, like we have the internet and somebody can believe that. And I'm like, where have we gone wrong?
it's I can't explain that one.
Yeah.
It's I think because well, I mean, I think if 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 they're seeing shit that you're not seeing and you're seeing shit that they're not seeing, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, then I guess you guys can live in totally different realities.
Right. And isn't that crazy?
That
Like,
that but I think what you're literally experiencing is that
mm,
you're experiencing like talking to your friends like you're experiencing what that's like. And I mean, I experienced that with people who I've been friends with, who I've grown up with, and like stuff. And it's just like you're like, do we live the same existence?
right.
Like, are we in the same world? Because what I'm seeing and what I'm being shown must be vastly different from what you're seeing and what you're being shown. It's just like
Right.
what is real? And then how can any of us be self-righteous to say that our way is right? Because it's so hard to say, because I mean, if both sides are being skewed to cater to an echo chamber,
Right.
what is wholly right and what is wholly wrong?
Right. And when we have, it seems like a platform like social media that's so conducive for screaming matches without any like check mark for what you're screaming about to be objectively true. It's weird. It's just a cesspool.
It is a cesspool. It is a
And
cesspool of sorts.
and I don't know. The end of the day, Trump will be gone, and hopefully we can start to rebuild and regrow. But
You
it's
calling it? You're calling it here and now.
I'm calling it. I'm sending my energy into the universe, hoping that.
Yes, send that. Send it out. Send out those vibes, man.
No, but dude, I really like. I don't have an answer for that. It's just it's like we've reached the point where I think we've identified this beast of media and like social media and just our current culture and like what's gonna happen now. And it's just interesting. Like media really drives us, and when you're only seeing a small percentage of that, I don't know what the end game is.
Uh, would the end game be a control state where everything is censored and we'd have no more
It
ability
could
to
be.
understand like what?
Everybody go read Animal Farm in 1984. George Orwell.
Yes, yes.
Go read.
I wanna. I've read Animal Farm,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never read 1984. And my dad, because he's really like big into like talking about like censorship and stuff. He's like he cites that book a lot,
Yeah.
and I think it's definitely worth mentioning that like if you are concerned with censorship and stuff like that, that is definitely one that you should look into.
Yeah. It's just a different world, man. Like we have so many more voices telling us so many different things. And I don't know. It's tough to like it's tough to keep up to date with it every single day without getting tired. And it's
And it takes away from your life. Like it's not. It's like I respect people who want to stay informed and who are like political activists. I deeply respect it. Like if that is your calling.
oh, for sure.
But here's the deal: direct political activism, actually being in politics, is not my calling. So you cannot expect me to make my life that.
Right. And you shouldn't be demonized for not making your life like that. And that's something that I and it's weird to talk about this because it's not even like we disagree with it. It's just like the 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 enforcement behind it is
Right.
sometimes a little questionable. Where like I don't know. I don't want to go into like too far, like too much specific, but like our study abroad group in Rome, it felt like we couldn't have the conversations that we desired because of this elephant in the room that we couldn't get around as a group. And
In essence, like, there was a dominant ideology
ideology,
that we were subscribing to, and if anyone disagreed with any minute point of it, it was like shut down.
right? And I don't know about you, I view my films as humanitarian, not as American. So it's like I just don't feel this desire to make everything about the here and now. Like I'm so much more drawn to abstract stuff, emotional stuff. Like I would way rather make something that caters to like
Yeah. Transcendent humanity. Like
right,
what are the things about humanity that everyone can understand and has, not what makes us different.
Right, right.
What is the connective nature of humankind? And I guess I want to clarify, like, I mean, the way that I live my life, to me, the most important thing that a human can do is to live their life in a way that supports the dignity and the essence of all other humans.
Oh yeah.
So if a politician or anybody are saying things and doing things that don't support them, then yes, I'm immediately going to say, no, that's wrong.
Hmm.
That's not okay. Like what happened with, I mean, the fact that we even have to debate that police reform needs to occur is
Right,
ridiculous to me.
right.
Like that, like to me, that's a no-brainer. Like maybe how we go about it is debatable, but the fact that it is needed is not.
Exactly. And that's another thing. Like, I don't want to overcomplicate this. Like, I feel like we both totally agree on that. Like the here and now issues, yes, it's more like just conceptual stuff. I feel like we're trying to like hit at. And so like yeah, like totally agree with you. You're 100% right there. But then like it, I don't know. I want it seems like other genres of media are almost not being valued as much as a certain genre because of a point in time politically. And
What do
that's
you mean by that?
like I'm an escapist, a surrealist, and I don't feel like DePaul teaches me a damn thing about that. They teach me how to make social films, and that's great. That's great if that's what you want to do. But I think we can't forget about all the other things that film can offer.
Right.
And and I don't know. And I'm so hesitant to say this as a white male because that is my inherent privilege to be able to look at film and choose. I'm not going to make explicitly social films. I'm going to make
Right.
humanitarian films.
Right.
But as an artist, you need to recognize that and not shy away from it and not cater to what society is telling you to make, cater to what the voice inside of your head is telling you to make. And
Well, I agree with you. You have to do what you feel you need to do.
right,
You can't start making your art because you're like, well, people will get behind this message if I do this. Because
mm,
if that's the only reason you're making a film, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons and you're bankrupting your message.
right,
Because you're just doing this message because you feel like people will like it, not because you are fully, I mean, you may support it, but you need to actually just live, you need to live your life in a way where you're living it out and making a difference in the world, not just within your films.
yeah. And I could just be really weird because even in like in more than half of the scripts I write, I don't have character names. It's
Huh?
it's it's man, boy, girl, woman. Like it's I believe really in human archetypes and like human emotion more than I believe in identity, I guess. Because I think at the end of the day, humanity is bigger than any of our definitions of ourself. And I think if you can key in on emotions that connect us, those are films that I feel like can really like drive connectivity and understanding. And it's not so much about like overtly telling you how to think. It's about expressing that maybe you and this other person who thinks completely different about the same thing can feel a certain way about something. And that's important too. And I just think there's so many ways to change people through media that isn't that explicit pound you over the face with my message.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there's something for everybody out there.
I think I think that's really interesting because really, what are writers doing when we write? I guess I have two things to say. Really, what is a writer doing? A writer is always expressing human archetypes. and human. I really believe every writer, every true writer, is a humanistic writer.
Mhm.
It depends, but it depends how far you lean into it. Do you know what I mean? And it's and you know, I think that for me at least, I mean, I've never written a script where it was just man or boy or you know that way. But I mean, the names never matter. Like I always think of like names for my characters in like 5 minutes.
Same.
It's always like quick. I don't like because it's stupid to like linger over the name because you normally like say if I'll normally pick a name that you know the meaning of the name captures the essence of the character.
Mhm.
Like certain names like have these meanings that we're not even aware of, and like for me, especially like with the thing that I wrote, like Niobe, a lot of the names come from are like based off of Greek mythology and of like the Greek myth of like Niobe,
Mhm.
where all of her children are killed by Artemis and Apollo because she disrespected the gods. And it was like, and then I really ran with the whole Greek thing, and like a lot of the names are based off of that. But because like there is a method to the madness, but I don't put too much time and energy into that. Like that's not the important thing. It's
Right.
about the archetypes. It's about what these characters represent on a humanitarian basis. My second point is going back we were talking about privilege.
Mhm.
I was reading in an essay basically about black women spectatorship of films,
Mhm.
like how black females have to watch films and they understand and whenever they have to watch prior narrative conventions, say from like classic Hollywood cinema or even after that,
Yeah.
they have to watch it and they know as I mean, you can obviously see now, especially with all that we know and understand now, that the conventions, like obviously, white women are you know they're subjugated and they're you know obviously you've heard of the male gaze
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and all that, and obviously that has been detrimental to how white women are portrayed in
Mhm.
cinema, which is awful. Black women are seen lesser than. They don't even get the status of white womanhood
Right.
in prior. You know, they would have to be like mammies. They would have to be they couldn't engage with white characters the same way. So to identify with any of those characters would be demeaning to the black female spectator, because
Mhm.
it's like I'm accepting that I am not. I mean, I'm not even. I'm not only lesser than a man, because at least a black man can identify with the subjugation of a white woman
Yeah.
because he's a man and he can have the male gaze thrust projected onto the white woman. But the black female spectator doesn't even have that status. So then the essay goes on to basically say that in films the black female characters in films, what really resonates with black female audiences is when a black female character within a film has that ability to just give a look and you know what I mean, like they essentially create their own gaze because a
Mhm.
gaze has power. I know I'm kind of speaking in very like abstract terms, but when they're able to communicate and have that same status as say like a white man, say like they're talking like just as simple as like a white male character and a black female character having a conversation, but they're all like visually they're on equal footing, like the camera captures them and they're on like an equal plane of dominance
Right.
through the camera angles and just how the characters are looking at each other. That means so much to the black female spectator that a white person, a white male especially, has always taken for granted. We've always seen like male characters have the authority in a
Right.
film and have the story be shown through their individual story and journey and dominance in manifesting what they want.
Mm.
So that's
So
why
yeah,
I think
and I guess
this is
like
so complicated.
right, and
What we're
I
talking
don't
about.
want to like lessen how important that is. It's just that I think every single artist has a specific calling.
Yes.
To me, the way that I go about expressing equality is by stripping away all things that make us different, like gender and identity and names,
And I
and
think that's incredibly effective.
train human emotion that connects us. Because
Yeah.
I like, and I think you can do it both ways. Like, I think you can effectively go about finding communion within humanity in a multitude of ways.
Yeah.
And like what you're saying, it's just important to be like, to be educated in cinema and like and the effect that cinema has had on us culturally,
Right.
and knowing that if you throw something into that conglomeration, what what side are you on, like what is your footprint, and those are all things to think about. But while thinking about that, don't let that taint the message,
Yeah.
because like your artist's statement and what's inside of you, I think transcends any type of human definition of who you are. These are things that I really truly believe are like from the stars, from the universe. And it's just like, I don't know, like I really think you don't shy away from that no matter who you are, what you look like. Follow that voice in your head.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I just think what we've just done here is we've kind of highlighted both sides of the argument.
Mhm.
But it's not even an argument because
Different
we
ways
both
to represent.
believe in the same thing.
Mhm.
It's two different approaches. The social film and the entirely humanistic film. They're actually really trying to achieve the same thing when done from a place of honoring human dignity. They're doing the same thing. It's just a different approach. But I
Mm.
think that's why it's so important for us not to bicker over this
Right.
because we're trying to get to the same place. We're trying to say, hey, we're all humans. We all deserve dignity. We all deserve respect and love and appreciation. Why would we, as fellow humans, why would we not give that to them
Right. Right.
if we have the chance to?
And also, what's so interesting about all this too is like even my opinions on that are more or less bound to a form. Where like the short film, 100% that's how I believe. But if I'm writing something like a book, I'm so much more in tune with my characters, who they are, their identities, and it's like you just have to like find how you express yourself, and and it's okay if that's not 100% synonymous with like how you feel you should be doing or what is like the righteous way of doing so. As you said, we're getting to the same place either way. Be confident in your own approach and your own style, and you can't let that noise taint it, because there's noise no matter where you are, no matter who you are, and it's just important to stay true to that. It's what our teachers told us from day one. We walk into screenwriting class and they basically told us that show not tell and listen to the voice in your head.
Yeah. And it's very surprising just how effective those two rules, even though they seem like obvious and like mundane the first time you hear them, how much you continue to go back to those basic principles.
Because they grow and they evolve with you,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we've never really talked about this. What I mean, well, I guess I do know what your approach to writing is. I mean, I know kind of what we've talked about it a little bit, but I guess what is your approach to starting a story?
Oh god, dude, I'm so sporadic.
I
Like,
Me as well. I don't think there's one. I always hesitate to ask the question of a writer, what is your approach? Because stories always come to you differently each time a little bit. Like
Right.
it's never like this one formula in which, oh, I just think about it this way, and then I start writing this, and then it just work. No, it is the organic process of it.
Yeah, so I guess like the process of like ideation like is never the same because you're always gonna like draw conclusions based on like different thoughts or new experiences to come to some like thing that you want to talk about. But developmentally, like when I develop a story, I'm a huge outliner.
Mhm.
Like, and that's something that's true with no matter like what medium I'm writing in, like whether it's a short script, a novel, novella, graphic novel, like whatever it is, I need to like know the skeleton of my scene before I can go and start to fill it in. Like I need to know you're the powerful one here or whatever, and like this they're going to try to do this and the outcome's going to be this, and then all of like the fun world building, like the personality of the story comes out from like the in between, I think.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, and I guess to just go off the outline, I've been trying like a bunch of new things recently. I've been laying out the flashcards, which has been helping with definitely like surreal stuff because I'm writing this new script where I'm playing with time a lot, and like for example, I have like three different storylines that I'm putting my beats on with different color coded note sheets, and then I'm putting them together and trying to like make the puzzle work. And then I also do things like I take like a big sheet of paper, hang it on the wall, and I say, what is everything I know about my story right now? And I write it all down, and then you just start to sift. Because like that's all storytelling is. You just dump 1,000 pounds of sand into a sand shifter and you shake, and you just see what comes out.
that
And
that is a good way to describe it.
you might be left with a few nuggets of gold, and you might be left with nothing. But you got to shake the sifter.
Yeah, and that's the scary part.
Mhm.
Because I've been in a situation where either has happened. Either I find the gold nuggets or
And it's
the
scary to
gold
shake
found.
it because like if it's just a big pile of sand, you're assuming there's going to be some gold in there.
Right. It's like
Right.
there's got to be something,
Right.
but that's not a guarantee
Yeah. so,
ever.
so it's scary to attack that. No, I totally, yeah, I feel you on that one.
Now, is this timepiece? Is this a short film or is this a feature?
I'm sorry, what?
The timepiece that you're talking about right now is it a short film or a feature?
That's a short.
Okay. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm working on like 2, 3 short ideas. I'm actually getting on a call with Doris later this week, and I'm going to try to like elevator pitch them and see what she likes. But
Yeah.
with winter break coming up, there'll be some more time for independent stuff. So it'll be
Right.
fun.
Right. So, I mean, are you planning on shooting it in the winter?
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But like honestly, dude, I I'm to the point where like if I don't have the budget to get the stuff that I would want to make it, I don't know if I want to even make it. So I would maybe like try something else that's a little bit smaller, but it's tough right now because we can't really get any funding through DePaul. All of the external grants, I feel like I'm still waiting on the climb to be finished for, so we can get like a reel together and have some leverage asking for money. But
Right. Right.
I don't know. It's a really tricky time, and that's why most of my time I've been spending on this book.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I'm just kind of like writing short stories. Or I wrote a short story and I've just been writing poems.
I saw that one on your Instagram. I thought that was really, really awesome.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was cool. Um, I mean, I wrote a little poem for my girlfriend. I posted that on Instagram, and I liked that. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, it was just kind of a thing that I wanted to do.
Mm,
Um, ever since, I mean, because I mean, with Niobe, I know we've talked about this, the TV series. We're not going to start filming that, I think, until spring.
oh wow, okay.
So I mean, and it's weird because I've spent like 8 months going at it, and now
Mm,
it's starting up, and like we're in the pre-production process, and I'm trying to figure out like what the next thing I'm going to write is. like the next serious thing, like the next like serious pilot or story that
Yeah,
I'm gonna write. Because I mean, I mainly write TV stuff,
yeah.
and it's just I thought I had an idea that I was interested in, and it does still kind of interest me. But I'll be honest with you, and I'll just say this in front of everyone. I'm not finding the motivation to do it. It is like, and I think basically what that's telling me is I go back to the drawing board and get an idea that I like more, because it's just not enough. It's not enough to give me to be like, let's go at this and let's
For
mentally
Niobe?
toil over it.
You said for Niobe or the new thing you're writing?
The new thing.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, no.
Cool. Great.
The new idea, I guess. I'm trying to, while I'm working on the Obi and some short stories and other stuff, I want to, I want to write, a series like a pilot, it's like
Right.
a serious pilot, and that's what I'm like still debating on in my, and I'm like mentally toying myself, and the writing that I have done, I haven't even really done anything in regards to that, but I have been writing the short stories. That's
Mm.
the one thing that like I guess I kind of been like distracting myself with until I figure out like what that is. But
It's tough to like know when it's time to let something go or when it's time to look at something a completely different way to see if maybe you can like reignite it, or it's like
that's the debate. That's
right.
the debate I'm having. I'm having that debate of like, well, initially I thought this idea was interesting, so why don't I like it anymore? Is it I'm not looking at it correctly? Is there just a better way, better form
Mm.
to do this in that would excite me, or is it just you thought you had something that you were interested in, but now it's not, but it's not
Dude,
really.
that is a whole rabbit hole that we could go down. Like identifying the proper form for your idea.
Yeah,
That is impossible.
because if you don't figure that out, here's what can happen. If you don't figure that out in the beginning, it can still work, but eventually you're gonna put a lot of work into it, and eventually you're gonna figure out the performance wrong, and then you're gonna have to go back and change it all.
But what's so interesting is like franchises, adaptations, all of these things that like drive mainstream Hollywood are the things that we're more or less arguing against. So there's these like two ideas of film. There's like film to say something, and then there's film to like entertain. And it's not like better or worse, but like I don't know, like when somebody comes up with like a new Marvel story, they don't limit it by form. They think about how do we make this accessible in all forms. When we're thinking about a story, we're like, okay, like which one is
Right.
this
It's
most
got to be one. Which is it?
right?
Yeah. And I guess my whole thing is I I will write down the initial idea and then I'll just think about it for a very long time. And by a
Mhm.
long time I mean like 2 weeks. And then like if I can still be into it, and like I can still, and new ideas are still like coming in and like avenues to go, especially for a TV series, because
Yeah.
you got to have an expansive world and a story arc that is going to be interesting enough for at least, in my opinion, at least 5 or 6 seasons.
Mhm.
It's got to be that, it's got to be that strong of a character arc, and it's got to have that strong of like character relationships, because that's what gets people to continue watching the TV show.
You amaze me with how you write TV, man. Because like I know, I know we were talking about like the Black or the Black Lagoon thing, and I
Yep.
tried to like write some spin-off TV show on that. And I tried to like, I mean, I did a spec Black Mirror episode that I thought came out okay, but just formulating like, and doing the world building for a TV show, like, good God, that's a lot of work.
It is. No, I won't disagree with you. It totally is, and it's funny because I marvel at feature writers,
Mm.
because I thought I was a feature writer for a long time, but I kind of hated it. like low key, like I always thought like my stories were too long. I thought, oh man, like I wish I could continue this story somehow. Like,
Mhm.
but I think really it is like you find the right fit. You find like the thing that leans towards you. And I think the way that I describe it, it's like I love films. Like films were my first love.
Mhm.
Because obviously when you're a kid, your dad or your mom takes you to the movie theater and you see a film for the first time and you're like, oh, holy shit, this is
Yeah.
crazy. And then you're like, this is awesome. But then I started watching more TV and I fell in love with TV.
Mhm.
I think that's what happened. I was just like, wow, especially once TV began to progress. Like when I was like in middle school and high school, that's when I feel like Breaking Bad became a big thing. And then, these shows that really were like setting the standard of what a TV show could and should be.
Mhm.
Then I was like, oh well, man, there's so many avenues that you can go with this. Like it's not just the studio shot sitcom anymore. It's not
Mhm.
like just the Seinfelds or your friends, which I love Seinfeld. Don't get
Right.
me
Because TV was all like cable. I mean, like, it's had such a transformation over the years, and
wrong.
especially with like streaming platforms and stuff like that. Just TV is really, really it's I don't know. You could argue and say it's more mainstream than film now.
Well, I think serialized programming
Yeah.
is becoming I mean, because I think people, especially now that they can binge, they don't have
Mhm.
to wait. There is this love of, oh man, that episode really hyped me up. And the next episode is right here. I can just watch this right now.
And
Like
it's
it's
interesting
great.
too because I think like we finally reached the point where franchises have become more powerful than like Hollywood stars or directors.
Yes, IP is
Right.
so much more important than the star. I mean, having The Rock and like Robert Downey Jr. will hype up your film a little bit, definitely.
Mhm.
I'm not going to dispute that there are some movie stars who can still do that, but IP trumps.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Yeah,
and I think like just thinking about TV and film as a whole, if you like have concise thematic messages, I feel like that caters more towards short film and features. And if you have like character heavy stories, that's definitely TV.
yeah. Well, I think the reason why you're so good at writing short films and features and stuff, I think it's like it comes from the fact where and tell me if I'm wrong with this, but from our talks and what I've kind of gathered, I feel like you're a writer because I feel like there are two types of writers. There's the one writer that starts from the world and then fits the character into the world, and then there's a person who starts with the character and then fits the world to the character.
Mhm.
I feel like you are very good at making very interesting worlds that have a great tonality and great themes, and then you're able to create humanistic characters that fit within those.
Him.
And well, no, but I'm just saying I think that's why you have gravitated towards features, because
Mhm.
that is, and I don't think either way is better or more effective. It's just a different way of entering into a story,
Yeah.
a different entrance point.
Right.
Whereas I've always felt that I've had to enter into the character first, and the world is secondary to the character. Like the world just has to make the character go through obstacles. Like the world just has to combat the character.
Right. Right. No, for sure. That's definitely true. I don't know. I always characterize myself as like a walking ego death. So
Say that again.
as a
Walk.
walking ego death.
Uh
So
huh. Okay. Hey, please
uh,
explain. Please explain yourself.
so I don't know. I think what you said is true. I prioritize the tone, the theme, and the world, and then I fill it in with I don't even know if like physical or like identify like I fill it in with like emotional characteristics that I then like pin to a random character. And like I'll always pick an actor or actress based on how well they can like embody the theme, not so much a character.
Hmm.
So like yeah, you're totally right on that. Um everything kind of comes from the world and the message for me. And I think like the world is so tied into the message and the tone for me when I write, that my world in and of itself is a character. And I view like I view the forest and the climb like a definite character.
Oh yes,
And just the,
definitely. The
yeah,
forest is as much of a character as the man or the boy.
right. And it's nice to have this conversation too, to just like dive into who we are as artists and what we're trying to say, because it's something that I think like we all need to spend a little bit more time like thinking about. And
Yes. Sorry, I do adjustments. So
oh, you're good.
in the right pose.
No, that's great. I need to write that down somewhere, validate myself.
No, you're welcome anytime. um, yeah, no, because I mean, I just think that that's just. I feel like because I heard someone say that. I heard someone make that distinction, and like there are like the people, and again, it's the only really difference is that it's where you enter from.
Mhm.
Because of course, a person who starts with the world will eventually get to the characters and then formulate his characters.
Right.
It's not like the character formulation doesn't happen, and vice versa with someone who starts with character. It's not like I'm not going to attend to the world, especially in TV. The world's got to be interesting. It's got to be big.
Mhm.
It's got to be eventually become expansive, and definitely, and the world has to have a theme attached to it. It's not like those things aren't addressed. It's
Mhm.
just where do you start? What pulls you in at first? What gets you going at it?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
And sometimes it's not like always one or the other.
No,
And
it doesn't have to be. No.
right. And because I even know like I don't always come to ideas that way. Definitely, I would say honestly that's fairly accurate with short films and features. Like I'm always attacking it from that angle. But honestly, I'm the opposite when it comes to books. Like I'm very character focused, but
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure with a novel, with a different medium, the
right,
game changes.
right. So I yeah, it's interesting to really think about that. And I think there is a level of importance to I hate to say to pigeonhole yourself, but to just, scoot yourself in the right direction and be like, this if you're seeing a trend in your work, and if that trend is, like working, don't run away from that.
No, don't deny yourself of who you are as an artist.
Yeah.
That's definitely
No matter if it fits the popular mold or not. Because that's something that's really hard for me in class and stuff, where I always feel like I need to make my work more about people, more about identity, more about like people facing like systematic issues, and all of that exists. And I'm not denying the existence of such by not centering on it in my work. It's just that there's other things that call to me. And I think you can still do that and still unite people and still like have a voice for the voiceless in that new form or that different form.
I agree. It's you can't. We were talking about this in Rome. We talked about this in Rome many times.
Many times.
Many times was you literally once you start as an artist, once you start buying into the idea that other people have control, excuse me, that other people have control over what or influence on how you tackle a story or what stories you lend towards, then it's game over.
Mhm.
You're done. Like it's like because I mean that now you're doing it to please others, and you'll find that you're not going to be pleasing to yourself. And
Yeah.
if you can't please yourself while writing, one, you'll be miserable. Two, the writing's not going to be that good, probably. I mean, it might be okay. You might be able to, make a story that you might be able to make a decent story that you think other people will like.
Hmm.
But we all know this. And I mean, mean, and I feel like I definitely have come to know this even well because I've been reading a lot of scripts because I mean I've been working as a script analyst, well, I've been interning as a script analyst for a little bit. Like I've just been reading scripts for like production companies,
Yeah.
and like you can tell when someone was trying to just write something to adhere to a current event and to like sway you in a direction. And the
Right.
thing is, they lose the writers tend to lose themselves in that message and they forget actually how to tell a story.
Right. Because it becomes this like there's your story and then there's your additives to try to sell
Right.
it. And like what's the most capitalistic enterprise besides like big pharma in America? It's film.
Entertainment, yeah.
Right.
Yes,
It's
entertainment.
so, right. And that's something that's like it's so tough to navigate because you're like, we're trying to sell this shit and we can't pretend otherwise.
Yeah, we cannot pretend. We are entrepreneurs.
Right. Right.
We are no, like we
We're
are
selling a product.
entrepreneurs. What?
We're selling a product.
Yes.
And and whether you want to like accept that or not, you still are. And
On some level, well, not on some level, on every level, you are. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right. And it's being sensitive to that while trying to stay true to your story. And I don't have any experience with distributors or like or financiers, and I'm sure these are I mean these are problems that artists run into every single day. How do I make this while staying true to it?
yeah. That is all. I mean, I feel like that has been the question for writers ever since mass media was
Yeah,
invented. Like when like you could commercialize mass media, the artist has been like, well, I still want to make this art and it's cool, but like, can we keep the art how I want it to be kept? Like, can we just keep it? Do we have to like, change it unnecessarily, And
it's tough.
that is tough.
It is, especially in like today's landscape where I don't know if you have I have a few friends who graduated from DePaul last year who are out in LA right now and they can't find anything.
Well, I mean, in right now with the pandemic, I mean,
Right.
I mean, because I mean, so much of getting a job in LA, and literally, it was great because I mean, my one of my mentors on the internship program, Dash, kind of just says like so much of like getting the job you want that's going to propel you forward in this town is based on you finding other writers assistants, other showrunners assistants, other like assistants and like workers around the industry and taking them out to lunch and drinks. He's like, you should do this like 3 to 5 times a week. Like pick somebody and
Yeah.
take them out. Tell them what they're up to. Like ask them what they're up to, like what they're doing, how you both can help each other. Like, and it was like it made so much sense. But I mean, and now because I mean now people who are working there are doing like Zoom
Zoom
lunches
ins.
and drinks because that's just so important to the culture.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Culture, and because I mean the point of it is you're trying to rise up with like your generation,
Right.
like the people who are in the position that you're in,
Yeah.
which makes total sense because I mean because you never know, you can never devalue any relationship that you have there because we all know this, and Hollywood people in Hollywood have known this forever. The person who might be an assistant may eventually one day run a company,
Very
right?
true.
Like run Sony
Very
or
true.
Paramount or Netflix or whatever.
And
So I
that's
mean,
and that's like it's exciting to me to have that knowledge, but at the same time, it's effing sad. Like it's weird to like it'd be weird to live there and constantly wonder, are these people genuinely my people or are they my people because we're all trying to get to this place?
right.
And that's why I found the climb to be such a cool experience because I felt like we genuinely connected with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I even I was on a Zoom call with Danielle the other day just to like check in, and it was so nice to talk to her. And and to talk to you all the time, and to Doris and everybody, Carol, Justina, Brendan, all these amazing people who helped out. And I don't know, it's going to be really interesting to see like how our social lives change as we like progress through this. And I don't know, it's weird. You can't really predict it till you're in it. You just like hear stuff about it. And the superficial nature of entertainment has always been a little like off-putting to me.
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah, it is. It is very off-putting when you genuinely have to sit back and think about it.
Right.
But I think what you do to combat that, especially once you go to LA and you start doing that stuff, is well, I mean, for the people who are watching, maybe that is your plan, maybe that's not your plan.
Mm.
But if that is your plan, I think what you can do to combat that is with humility and genuineness.
Yeah.
Like when you actually go out to lunch with these people, even if they're not genuine, meet them with genuineness and humility and kindness.
Mm.
Because if they're also genuine, they're gonna be like, okay, fuck, I love this because this is hard to come by. And they're gonna immediately glue to you. And if
Yeah.
they're not genuine, one, you'll know that and you'll learn that and you'll say, maybe I'll keep this guy as a content, but he's not the most genuine person, or he or she. And on top of that, if you come at that ingenuine person with all this genuine humility, that will also cause an effect on them. They'll see that and be like, oh shit, you are actually a genuine person.
Yeah.
Wow. Like they'll be amazed by it more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, as you said, it's so easy when you're in that situation, when you're in LA, to just be like, well, I gotta take these people out to drinks. I gotta wine and dine them, and that's how I'll get my way. But really, it's like instead of going in that mindset, go in the mindset of like, I'm gonna get the opportunity to meet a lot of really interesting people today
Mm-hmm.
or this week. I'm gonna have the opportunity to get to learn stuff about people that I've never met before and have a great time doing it and I'll get to learn more about the industry and I'll have more connections with people from other places, from other production companies or whatever, and with other writers assistants and showrunners assistants. Because for me, that's the big deal. It's like,
Yeah.
and it's finding those like-minded people who are also genuine, who also want to be successful and want to pursue their dreams. And that's I think that's the antidote
Mm-hmm.
to the tackiness.
That was like the most wholesome answer I could have ever. That was wow.
I try. Like
I almost feel like a jaded individual, dude.
I
No.
feel like the only antidote to this nonsense is actual realness.
Yeah. No.
Like that's the only thing you can do.
And that is the wisest way to look at it. In a place where you feel like stuff might not be completely genuine, just carry yourself as you would. Just
Yeah.
be genuine. And no, like, and that's true. I feel like with any like social group, like your people will gravitate towards you at the end of the day, and like you're probably going to end like if you're developing your own like independent work over the course of projects, you're going to end up with a crew that kind of like probably works the same way you do. It's just kind of trial and error, growing as a individual and as a unit if you're sticking with the same crew. And because that's something that's really interesting to me. Like I was like whenever I do research into production like background or whatever, it's so interesting to see that like big time directors use the same DP more times than not. Like even though huge studios and like millions of dollars are attached to it, you're still allowed to kind of like pick your people.
Yeah.
And Hollywood is like such a people industry. Like I don't know, like everything you're saying is true. Yeah, take them out to lunch, even if it's virtual. Don't be afraid by it because don't be afraid of it because of lack of genuine connection. But No, it's something I gotta work on, just seeing it in a more positive light and not just seeing how money affects it or how like personas affect it, but just staying true to ourselves.
Right. Well, it's fair because you are right. Money does affect it. Like you're not pointing out something that isn't true.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And and I think what gives me hope is that I heard this, I think, in an interview by a famous actor. And the interviewee, it was either like George Clooney or like a very, very well established actor. Um, the interviewer asked that actor, like, what's it like when once you get to Hollywood? Like, what are people really like? Like, what's the dynamic? And he's like, well, here's what tends to happen. If you're a good person, this industry will make you an even better person because it will give you so many opportunities that will just humble you and you'll just be living in your dream.
Mm-hmm.
If you come into Hollywood and you're kind of a shitty person, you might just become more of an asshole because the ego will be fed, the money, the commercialism, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I would say is to my point earlier, it's like, okay, I know you if your plan is to go to LA and you get there, you're probably going to meet shitty people. I'm not going to pretend like that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the genuine people are there. The people who are becoming even better people are also there.
Right.
And you can find those people.
And
You
also,
will. You
yeah,
will run into those people.
and it's also like worthy to note that so much of what we believe about an entity or like a business or like a place or LA, even like it's so much more about what you're told and what you hear and what you see rather than what you actually experience. And it's
Yes.
so important to not have concrete views of things that maybe are out of your reach.
Right.
I'm not going to pretend like I understand Hollywood. I'm not in a
No.
position to right now.
No.
And it's important to like just be open to it, even though you can acknowledge pros and cons of the life or the system. You don't know how you don't know like where you're going to fit into it. And just to be open to new experiences and new people and to not assume the worst or to not assume like somebody's out to get you or somebody's out to like take advantage of you, even though it does happen and you should be wary of it. We still get to make movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's like,
You get to
that's
make
amazing.
fucking movies and television.
Right.
How? I mean, who? I mean, what could be better?
And there's all this shit that gets in the way. But at the end of the day, we get to make movies.
It's well said.
Right. And if that's like what you want, you're not gonna let that stuff bog you down. It's just
Totally agree.
stuff you take in stride and you work with. Same as like us having to change a location on set, you know?
You don't resist. You
Yeah.
don't resist. Resistance will kill you in your
Mhm.
tracks. It will stop you from getting to where you want to go.
Unless you have like a Weinstein situation, then resist and resist.
Well, yes, yes. I mean, if don't again, if you're a genuine person, you will know what ingenuineness looks like, and you know what the shitty people are like, and you will avoid those people.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people working there, just because you don't work with one person because they're shitty doesn't mean you can't work with other people.
Mhm.
So,
No, but
still
that's
have
important to
integrity.
say. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to kind of like I know when you're first starting, you want to like take every opportunity that comes to you, but like you got to like take the ones that fit.
Yes. Yeah. You can't say yes to everything.
Right.
You do have to pick what are the projects, who are the people that I really feel is going to give me the best shot to tell a wonderful story.
Mhm. and all this like pressure that I feel like artists constantly feel, and I struggle with it every day, like how I view myself and my stories, and how I don't know, it's just so important to realize you're really only racing yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And like when that can
With negative
become
information.
but it's hard because it's like there are culminations and then there are actualizations, and there's this little bridge in between that you gotta just get across to then have it like kind of like embed in your subconscious. And I'm still working on that. It's hard to take that pressure off yourself and to be able to like really develop this story and give it all of the like attention and love it deserves, I guess, and not trying to like finish it by this time or make it like this to appeal to this person, or that, um you're only racing yourself. Take your time, make your stories.
Yeah.
If it's meant to be, it'll be.
Is honestly just, it's just, are you better? Are you, did you do a job? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm fucking this up.
You're good.
Did you do better today than you did yesterday? Like that's what's it like. Are you a better writer? Do you know more? Have you gotten further in your story than you did yesterday? And have you improved? That's what you should be focusing on. You shouldn't be focusing on, do I have the script right now that's going to give me that first check?
Mhm.
Like focus on, and don't focus on what other people are doing. Focus, what is your story?
Right.
Who are you? What is, focus on this guy or this woman, or whatever. Like just, you have to, you have to fully be aware of yourself and what you want out of your work.
And
And
give
that's
yourself
all
to
that
it.
matters.
And you have to like not be afraid to give yourself to it, I feel like, too, because there's a lot of times where like you can half-ass pretty much like 95% of life and like get through it, but you can't really like half-ass giving yourself to a story if you want it to like
No,
turn out.
no. And if you half-ass it, people who read your scripts, like the people like at Story Analyst, I'm just gonna say this from having experience, we will catch you. Like like they will catch you. Like they'll see, like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand, to literally look at a script and be like, well, you wrote this in a very authentic way, or man, you have asked the shit out of this.
Mhm.
What is this? Like these characters are so boring. I don't care about anything that's going on.
Right. And even if you like do happen to sell a script, it's gonna be in the developmental process for like years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's gonna have what is like a 10% chance of being made once your
Yeah.
script is optioned, anyways.
Yeah. If you're doing it through the Hollywood system, if you're taking it to a Hollywood production company based in LA, and it's just okay, and but say somehow you've gone in where your writing, like we can tell your writing is just fine. Like at best, it's just fine. But your script has an interesting premise, and we're intrigued by it. And by we, I mean like the production companies, management companies, whatever. They might take it, but here's what's going to happen. They're going to spend. They're not going to hire you. They might pay you off as the writer, but then they're going to get another writer and another person on the production team to go in
Right.
and be like, okay, let's actually make this shit good now. Like this premise is kind of cool, and we like the premise, but now we're actually going to make this good, and it's and they'll gut it, and they'll discard you. And honestly, if you're that kind of writer, you deserve it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right. Like if you need to rush it, like rush the process to, and that's what I don't get. Like I feel like everybody's in this state of like rushing. When even if you sell something, you gotta like wait a really long time to even have like the chance of it being. So just like take your time, man. Make sure it's good. Make sure
yes,
that like a studio can't go in and like pick a hole in it to take a power grab over your story. Because like if
yeah.
things work, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to change it, you know? And
Make it so good and so true to yourself and so like personal that the people who get it won't want to change it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, wow, this is so unique. This is so personal. The writer threw himself on the page. I don't want to change a word of this. Like, I don't like that's what you should aim for. You might not always get that, but that's the aim. It's like every word you write, every phrase, every how you structure the page,
Hmm.
it all comes off as just this beautiful symphony, and the people who read are just like, I don't want to change this.
Right. And
I
it's,
will
it's
advocate for this
tough
script till
though.
the day I die.
Right.
What?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just, it's such a like a fine line because it's tough to personally know when your script has reached that point. So that's why it's also important to have like a web of friends like you, like John, other writers who you can like send stuff to and see if this is where I want it to be. If this is like so.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, all that's really important. But
because your friends will tell you if you're half-assing it.
right, right, for
I'll say
sure.
it. Yeah,
And I guess like my number one piece of advice, like this, like I know we're talking about like all this like the message behind stuff, like how to like formulate your thoughts, your style, all these things. But really, like at the end of the day, if you want to be a writer, you got to be an even better reader. And I've
yes,
I've learned so much more about how I see things, how I formulate ideas and write just through like reading that because it's like it's a personal journey. It really is at the end of the day. And I don't know, you need to like I think it's really funny when people will like or not funny, but interesting when somebody will take something that somebody tells them to heart more than a organic thought that they come to from something. Like they'll put more importance on a teacher telling us this is how you should look at a
yeah.
script
Oh
than
my God, yes,
something and like saying I don't like how that script did that or I like how that script did that and running with that.
yes,
It's so important to follow your intuition with that stuff.
yeah. No, I mean, aren't all writers readers? Isn't
I'd
that
hope.
what it is?
I'd
You
hope so.
hope. You'd hope so. You would hope. You would hope so. Or I mean, obviously, I would recommend. Obviously, if you are a screenwriter, obviously that you read scripts and you read books, but also, of course, are you watching shit?
Yeah.
Are you watching television? Because I mean, obviously, you can watch something and you can learn by watching this stuff, like how a story unfolds,
Mhm.
visually. And I think if you have that combination of how a story is written on the page and how a story is translated on the screen, that is the key. That's the two components
And what's
of
something that's so interesting about that, I took a class on script to screen where we looked at like a script and then we watched the movie later on in the week and we saw how like that transfer occurred. And what was so interesting to me is that the director's interpretation seemed to outweigh the language of the script in every single regard. So like
yeah. I mean,
so
the
even
director.
right, like if
Yeah,
something is written the same exact way in one script and another script, it's going to be portrayed differently on screen based on like who's behind the production team.
yeah,
And it's just like staying true to yourself while also being open to other opinions, other changes, and just realizing that usually everybody on a film crew just wants the best possible story, whatever you want to call it, you know. And whether it's a PA who has an idea or your AD, I think it's because as you were saying before, like the assistant could become the Sony like the Sony CEO later on. It's
well,
just
and that's what their goal is. Like,
right.
I don't think PAs generally have the ambition of only being PAs.
Mhm.
Like, that's not. So I mean, you gotta understand that some of these PAs, they're gonna have great ideas because they are also religiously reading stuff, watching stuff. They
Right.
want to be filmmakers themselves. They're gonna have ideas. Like when you say, "Yo, you got an opinion on this?" They might have an opinion, and they might have a great opinion.
And it's not like weak of you to seek that out at all.
No,
And I
no,
feel like there's like this weird connotation with like the auteur asking for help or something, where it's like nobody can make this shit on their own.
No,
It's a team effort, and if you're not a team player, then I don't know, like it might not be the best
yeah.
industry for you.
I mean, do you? Well, yeah, no. If you're not a collaborator, if you're not a team player,
Yeah.
this don't do this.
Right.
Like, don't do it.
That's important for like the if you want to be like a writer director, that's important. Because like when you're writing, you totally can be an individualistic asshole. Like you can be, and that's fine.
If you are solely a feature writer, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. But if you're in like a writer's room, for
Oh
sure.
no, yeah, no. If you're in TV, yeah, you are with your writing team all the time. I mean, you get to know each other so
Right.
much and so well. They'll get rid of you if you can't work with other people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
no,
that's
feature
it.
writers, you basically can write it and you can write it in a cabin in the woods. And then all that matters is what's on the page. And
Right.
if what's on the page is good, then cool.
So you need to be like comfortable with the collaborative process and like because I just know that coming from only writing like books and like scripts with no intent to direct from doing like the climb, it was just such a different like process and it was almost like easier. Like I found it so much easier to get the climb where I wanted it, bouncing
Yeah.
things off you and everybody else than I did sitting in a room doing it myself.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I don't know why sometimes I don't know if you'd agree with this, but sometimes it almost feels like more comfortable to just lock yourself up and write. But if you run into a story block, I think it's just as effective to have a conversation with someone like you as it is to go for like a walk and try to like figure it out yourself. And that's something that's been really cool with film for me. Just seeing how the thing that started out in your head becomes everybody else's too. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you like get that with the creative process of any other medium like you do with film.
No. No, not that I can think of.
We don't even hold the camera, you know?
What?
We don't hold the camera, you know?
No,
Like,
no. No, it's I I I I agree that sometimes it can be more comfortable to just do it by yourself because then none of your ideas are challenged.
right, right.
But that's excuse me. That's the biggest trap because if you go unchallenged, you'll never grow.
Yeah.
So the second once you start bringing other people into it, then real growth, like real exponential growth,
Hmm.
is possible
For sure.
because you're getting knowledge that you don't have from someone else. I mean, isn't it true that like all knowledge? I mean, we don't have any knowledge unless it is given to us,
Right.
unless we find it. It's hard for us to like fully just create new knowledge by ourselves.
We can create new perspectives, but it's hard to create new knowledge. That's so true.
Right. Like if knowledge was like the unit of perspective, we can
Right.
create the perspective within the knowledge that we have.
Exactly. Exactly.
But the knowledge, you have to look outside of yourself to pull that in.
Hmm.
Can't. I mean, obviously, people discover stuff. I think it is possible, but even with those discoveries, they had to build off of other knowledge that they already had. Like you always need knowledge to find new knowledge. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you need to have something to build off of, and then the new knowledge comes. But when you're looking for knowledge, you have to look outside
Yeah.
of yourself.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And it's like just being open to that and like learning from that because I know just like on a technical level, I was not nearly as competent with a lot of the tech as other members of the crew were on set. And just like,
Same.
but you could argue we were so much more competent, like with the story, or not competent, might be the wrong word. We were so much more like rehearsed with it. And just having all of these people that can
Well,
bring something,
that is competency.
yeah, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
we had competency in that regard.
yeah. It's just so nice to see something like oh, and Coppola speaks a lot about this in Italy at the top. So over study abroad, Tim and
Oh,
I,
we didn't even, yeah,
yeah,
we didn't
and
even
that
mention this.
that was weird. We were like one of four or two of four people in the entire study abroad group who went and saw this guy speak.
Yeah, we
And
saw Francis. We literally saw Francis Ford Coppola, one of the greatest directors, give a talk about filmmaking, and he
yeah,
was
and
there.
he was talking all about this marriage of like science and art, and how, and like tech and art, and how like all of these different people, like just bringing so many different things to the table and making it all work in a really digestible way, and is so like awe-inspiring. And I don't think like anything besides film and maybe like VR video games nowadays can do that.
Well, yeah, virtual reality definitely has the prospect of doing that
Yeah,
to a degree that hasn't been seen before. That's a gosh, that's I mean that's I mean I guess that's the future, isn't it?
yeah. If we can figure out a way to make it digestible, because we thought 3D was the future until we realized that people don't want to wear glasses.
That's
So
true.
people don't want to wear headsets, you know, and like I don't think everybody wants to go to a theater and put a headset on. So it's how do we get augmentation to be digestible? And
That really is the key. It's okay. This technology is cool, but are people going to? How are people going to do it? Like, what's the process?
right, is it easy?
Is it
Is it
easy? Because people
right?
love easy stuff.
People love easy. Yeah. So it's so interesting. It's interesting to be alive at this time with like a bajillion different avenues to get to where we want to be. Where like you backtrack 40 years ago, you kind of like there's not an independent film scene like there is today. There's not like there's not as many distributors, or like streaming platforms have changed everything with independent stuff. You can
You can no, I mean the ability to, especially with social media, to advertise yourself and the platforms that we now have to put our stuff on. It's no, we've never experienced anything like this. It's a completely new and exciting world, and it's just going to exponentially change.
and I don't know what's going to come of cinema because of it. Because I remember we were talking to that other guy in Italy, and he was, I'm forgetting his name, but he directed the new Pinocchio.
Yes.
And do you remember how he was talking all about how he wanted an American theatrical release, but nobody wants to watch a dubbed film? And
Uh-huh.
he was also talking about how he wants to distribute it like globally, but the only ones who are willing to pick it up are like streaming services. And he doesn't want his film to be viewed on a computer. He wants to be like it to be viewed in a theater, the surround sound with like multiple other people, a viewing experience. And in like the wake of COVID and growing streaming platforms, are we going to eliminate the cinematic experience? Or not eliminate, but just like subdue?
Uh, Only time will tell.
Yeah, and the rise of VR, like all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean VR fascinates me. I That's the thing. I again, it goes back to this idea of resistance. Don't resist it.
Embrace.
Embrace, because it really is like about what people are gravitating towards. Like, people gravitated from silent films to sound films. People gravitated towards to black and white to color. We've gravitated towards now going to see a movie in the theaters to now preferably sitting in our living rooms and watching them on streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be shifts. You can't stop it. And the people who continue to make art and continue to have the ability to project their voice and make something meaningful, other people are like, you know what, I'm not resisting this change.
Right,
I'm
right.
going to see how I put my skills and what I know into this new advent, into this new invention, this new movement, and see where that goes.
I guess what's so compelling to me to think about is like what you mentioned, like silent to black and white to color. I don't know if those evolutions eliminated any social aspect of viewing.
They know they
And
didn't.
like the
The
way we,
the theater to streaming did,
right,
but not yeah. No, those are just like aesthetic.
right. So like the shift we're seeing today, film is becoming so much more individualistic, and and even in the way we consume, and which is so interesting because you look at the Hollywood system, there's less and less films being made every year, more and more franchises, more and more like trying to cater to the widest possible demographic, while the viewing experience becomes so much more individualistic. It's like this weird like teeter-totter.
Yes.
And I don't know. It's just interesting to take note of.
It is. It is definitely. Um, I definitely think that filmmakers should not be ignorant towards it. Like understand the trend, the new technology, because I mean that's in this business what changes things when new technology emerges.
Right?
And
Yeah.
new technology is being developed, and I think it might take them a while to figure it out, but it will emerge, and you should be prepared for it.
That's such a good point to make, and that kind of wraps back to what Coppola was saying. Like our art progresses with our science,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's wild.
It is
And
wild.
you don't stop and think about that as much as I think we should. Like, what if Shakespeare was alive today? Would his stories like transcend the paradigm that he was hitting at? Probably.
Probably. I
Yeah.
mean, well, his stories are so fundamental.
But it's what you were talking about with this whole like this knowledge, and how knowledge almost sets this paradigm that we can then find our own way that we like perceive it. And with each like technological advancement, the paradigm of film as a whole gets expanded, and then the way that we perceive it can be even more muddled. So it's interesting to see like a wider, like, we have so many more tools at our disposal, but I feel like we're using those tools to make more similar stories than we really ever have on like a Hollywood level.
Yes.
And I don't know.
Yeah. I don't even think we can answer. I can't answer. I'm not equipped to answer any of these questions. I don't even. I feel like I've gotten to the point where I can't even postulate anymore. I can't even like. I can't even.
We've gotten as abstract as we possibly can.
Man, gosh, we covered it. I mean, we went. I mean, I think this has been so amazing. I think people are gonna love this, and I'm just so thankful for this conversation, and for you, my friend. This is amazing.
Oh, it was great talking with you, dude. Anytime. This has been great.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing else to talk about. I have nothing else to say.
I think we pretty much covered everything. Talked about the climb, state of the industry, philosophy, our work, our process. That's about it.
We laid it out. We laid it out there, and thank you.
I appreciate you, Tim. You are a great human being.
Oh, right back at you. Tell your folks to say hi. Please, and be safe during this, and to everyone, be safe, act responsibly in this time of not knowing what's going to happen, and take care of each other. And happy creating. Keep creating, guys. Yes,
course, as always.
All right, man.
All right, man. Go Biden. Have a nice
Bye. I'll see you later.
Yeah, peace out, dog.